Hey guys, it's Nostalgia Boy 95 here, and welcome to my review on the Nintendo Entertainment System, commonly known as the NES. Some people in some areas call it the NES, or just simply the Nintendo. This was released in 1987 here in Australia, in Europe as well. 1985 in America, and I think obviously it was released in Japan as a Famicom in 1983. So the NES was released in New York in, I think it was October 1985, somewhere around that. They released some test units in only New York City. And then later on, I think in 1986, or I think a bit later on in 85, they had a nationwide release. But yeah, Australia did not get the NES later on until 1987. And as you can see by here, it says Matel version on it. Here in Australia, the NES and its games were distributed by Matel. So the NES was pretty revolutionary at the time. It was one of the first video game consoles I know of to have AV jacks on it, even though it's only mono. And it's the only. I think it was the first and one of the only consoles to have a front-loading system. Although mine isn't in the best shape, as you can see, there's a bit of damage there. But yeah, the NES revolutionized the video game industry. Not only the console itself, but also with the controller. Sorry, give me a second. Also with the controller, which was nothing like any other video game system had done before. Because all the retro game systems, like say take the Atari 2600 for example, or the ColecoVision and all that, they all had joystick type controllers, and the NES pretty much just had like a gamepad, 2 buttons, a directional pad, and start and select. So this is very lightweight and nice and small, easy to use. Although over time people had complaints that because of the square shape, the corners would dig into your hands and cause pain or whatever. But that could be fixed with the dog bone controller, which was a similar shape to the Super Nintendo controller that was released with the top loader NES, which is quite rare. So yeah, another thing that, as I already mentioned with the AVs, back in the mid to late 80s, not a lot of TVs had AV jacks on them. They were only starting to come about. So a lot of people generally just use the RF module that came with the console. Another big turning point for the Nintendo was the Zapper, or the light gun as a lot of people like to call it. The way this worked was you used light detection, whereas when you shot onto your screen, the screen would turn black and the target would turn white for a fraction of a second, and that would detect where you were pointing on the screen. For use with games such as Duck Hunt, Hogan's Alley, Wild Gunman, games like that, all great games. But there were also a lot of third-party accessories for the NES, like the U-Force, the Konami Laser Scope, which is another form of the Zapper with voice control, and there's this one here that I've got called the Quick Shot Joystick. This was released for the PC as well, pretty much just like a PC joystick fused with the NES, as you can see there. The NES was the starting point for a lot of today's famous Nintendo franchises. My favourite, here we go past the Mario series. Super Mario Bros. 3 has got to be the best game on the NES, in my opinion. I'm sure a lot of people will agree. There are a lot of variations of the Nintendo Entertainment System in the 1980s. I don't mean variants by the console itself, but I mean variants as in how they packaged it. A very common one here in Australia was the action set. Came with the console, 2 controllers, Mario, Duck Hunt, and the Zapper. Now, because we didn't get the console till 1987, okay, my apologies for that. I'm using my iPhone to film these videos, and because I've got it stuck on a tripod, it's not very stable. But as I was saying, this action set here, because Australia didn't get the the NES till 1987, this one here is from about 1989, 1990. Because the early ones in Australia, from about 87 to 88, used the grey Zapper, and then from then on they used the orange one. And not only that, I know because here on the side it's got Tetris and Super Mario 2, and I know that these 2 games didn't come to Australia until 1989. So that's how I know that. So one interesting thing about the NES in Australia is it actually didn't do that well. The Sega Master System and the Sega Mega Drive against the Super Nintendo did better than the NES in Australia. I know that was the complete opposite in Japan and America, but yeah, over here, Sega ruled the early 90s. And that kind of carried on throughout the 90s, but coming to the late 90s when the N64 and the PS1 was around, there wasn't really any winner here in Australia because there was the majority of homes in Australia had one or the other. So you know, every second home had an N64 and every first home had a PlayStation. Either that or you know they had both. So here I've just got the instruction manuals for the NES. Which, being a huge nostalgic fan, this is really nostalgic for me having the manuals. They're very basic if you compare them to like the Xbox 360 manuals of today. They're just so basic with their pictures and instructions and all that. It's just fantastic to look back on. Even though I was born in 1995, and all this is a good 10 years or so before my time, it's great to look back on. So, the Nintendo Entertainment System is a great console, and I'm trying to see where I put it. I don't know where I put my control deck. Oh, here it is. So, the NES is a great console. Definitely, if not my favourite, definitely one of my favourite consoles of all time. It's definitely up there in the top few. Yeah, it's just an amazing console. If you don't own one and you're a huge retro fan, you absolutely have to purchase one of these. So yeah, thanks for watching. Sorry if I'm a bit rusty, but yeah, it's my first video, and it's been a good couple of years since I've been making videos. I had a channel a couple of years back. I used to do game videos, but I stopped that for a while. So yeah, please comment, rate, subscribe. Hopefully I can take off with this channel. And I just want to say that John, aka Gamester81 and Nostalgiaholic, is his other channel. He is a huge influence for my videos and my videos to come. So John, love your videos, mate. So yeah, thanks for watching. Please comment, rate, subscribe, and take it easy.